Hi, this is Ann with Finance on the Offense, and today I'm going to go over how to negotiate a higher salary with a new job offer. All right, let's get started. Now, although this video isn't really about how much women make compared to what men make, did you know that women were paid 84% of what men made in 2020? That's according to a Pew Research study. I think a huge part of this pay gap is due to the fact that men are much more willing to negotiate salaries and women aren't. Almost every man that I've ever talked to about this negotiates a higher salary when they can, but very few women that I come across do. So that's a change that we need to make. Our salaries depend on it. Here's the thing about job offers. Employers expect candidates to negotiate their salary and benefits. So the salary offer that they make already has kind of a negotiation buffer built in. So let's say they expect to pay $45,000 for the position. What they'll do is offer you $41,000. And if you accept that, they're going to be pretty much overjoyed, because what they're really expecting is for you to say, oh, well, $41,000 is a little low. Can we put that up at $45,000? And then they say yes, and everyone's happy. Okay, so how do you actually go about negotiating? It's best to start out before you even get into the negotiating room with a best case scenario number and then a kind of willing to settle number. When you talk about salary to the hiring manager, you should always be shooting for at least the best case scenario number. So how do you actually go about negotiating? Let's say you've had a few interviews and now they present you with a job offer. Awesome. And by the way, it's best to not bring up the money aspects of the position until you're at the offer stage or until they bring it up. I do think this is something that has been changing over the last few years, because if the salary is too low, it's just basically a waste of everyone's time. But I would still just let them bring it up. Now, once salary is mentioned, it's kind of the general consensus that the first person to mention an actual number is at a disadvantage. So if they say, we'd like to hire you for this position, what are your salary requirements? They're hoping that you will automatically give a lower number than what they had hoped to pay for the position. A lot of people really hate that companies do this, but it really does make sense. Let's say you're going to hire someone to rake leaves for you, and you had 3 people who would all do exactly the same job. Wouldn't you want to hire the one who would do the exact same job for the lowest price? So companies are looking for the same thing. If they can save on payroll, then they can reallocate that money to other parts of the business. I know it might be kind of an annoying concept, but it really does make sense. Anyway, when they ask for a salary range or salary requirements, I like to say something like, well, what's the normal range for this position? At that point, they usually give me a figure. And so I usually say, well, I was really expecting $5,000 to $10,000 more than that. And if they give you a range, you want to say $5,000 to $10,000 more than the highest part of the range. And this is, of course, as long as the highest part of the range is higher than your lowest possible acceptable salary number. They're most likely going to be asking you things like, can you tell us why you think you deserve a higher salary? At that point, you can go into your achievements at past positions, skills you're bringing to the table, awards, years of experience, especially if you have a lot more years of experience than the job listing asked for. So all these things are good to prepare for in advance. After that, they'll usually offer you a better number. Let's say it's $45,000. Then you can just say something like, is $45,000 the best you can do? A lot of times they don't want to answer this outright. They'll say things like, well, I just don't think the owner is going to be okay with that high of a salary, or I'm not sure it's in the budget. Unless they give me a straight answer, yes or no, I usually just keep quiet and listen, and I wait until they respond with a definitive answer like yes or no. And if it gets too uncomfortable, you can just say, oh, do you need to check with someone to see if that is an okay salary or whatever? I've had a lot of interviews where they ask what my previous salary was, and I usually say something to the effect of, well, what I made before isn't really relevant to this job. There are so many differences, and I start listing the differences between my old job and this current job. This is something you'll also want to prepare for in advance. Another thing that's really good to do is get some figures of other similar salaries in your area and bring those to the interview, if they work in your favor, of course. You want to show higher wages. If the company won't budge on the salary you want, but you're still willing to take the job at the lower salary, tell them you'd like a day or two to think it over. Sometimes a hiring manager who's really impressed with you will kind of plead your case to his higher ups, like maybe the boss or the owner. You might find with a little time they're able to get you the higher salary that you want. Now, if you're absolutely not able to get that salary, you can also try negotiating benefits. Maybe ask for a couple more weeks of vacation or things like that. Here are a couple things that employers do to sort of discourage negotiating. They'll say they have a job offer, and then they'll present you with this sheet of paper on company letterhead that has a printed amount that they're willing to offer you. This is a psychological thing because once it's on that fancy letterhead, it really feels like it's set in stone and can't be changed. But of course, this is just as negotiable as a verbal offer, so don't be afraid to negotiate even if you get something like this. They might also say something like, here are the current wages of similar positions in our area, and what we're offering you is this number that's right up here at the top. At this point, you can pull out your list of similar jobs and salaries. Another way to respond to this is to go into your list of accomplishments and how you're bringing more to the table as a candidate for the job. So basically, long story short, always negotiate your salary, even if they offer you something that was way higher than you originally expected. Try to get them to go just a little bit higher than that. Alright, if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, just hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it and you'll be notified every time a new video comes out. Alright, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you!